And I have a list of all the people who are here today. If you can all see my screen, am I missing anybody? Oh, there's somebody else. And okay. So we've got the roll taken, and I'll keep updating it if anybody else shows up. Does anybody have any additions or deletions for this agenda this time? Oh, you guys are all really quiet today. Okay, so nobody's saying anything. Anybody have any deletions for the agenda? Waiting for name has arrived. Okay. And did everybody get a copy of the minutes from the January meeting? And were there any issues with that? Okay.
Looked fine to me.
Okay. All right. And is there anything for the open forum from anybody? If not, we can just move on to the reports. And in that case, if Beth and Brent want to give us the Sage staff report, we can get started on that.
All right, Brent, did you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I'm in a common room. Okay. Yeah, so I think I don't want to step on too many points because I'm going to touch on some of it in the circulation committee meeting tomorrow as well. But I think things have been going pretty well recently. We've just put in a new index which finished finally being attached to all the bibs in our system now, and so you can now search by 10 or 13 digit ISBN in the keyword box, and it'll bring up the record regardless if it just has one or the other in the mark. That went really well. Trying to think of anything of note else than that. I don't know, Beth, do you have anything to jump in with that?
We're still continuing to work on cleanup with some new features of the new software. We're hoping to get rid of some stray locations that are no longer in Sage, but we're continuing to work on that and trying to take advantage of some of the new features.
Yeah, there's been a slow kind of rollout of libraries interested in using the negative balance prevention features, so we've been kind of using that for certain libraries. I know Pendleton and Hood River are now using the prevent negative balances library settings, and we'd be very excited to work with other libraries to put those in as well.
Could you explain how that works? Just I'm confused. What happens if a patron is paid for a book and then that's returned, and so if they are eligible for a refund, how does the system show that?
That I've not been through a work case of that yet to try it out. I just know there's 3 separate. Let me pull up the link for the blog here.
I guess this might be better for the circulation committee meeting tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
but
can
there
go
are
over
three.
it then.
Yeah, there are three separate settings to basically deny them all together, deny them after an interval. So if a book has been lost, say for 3 months at that point, fines are not. Actually, yeah, sorry, it might be better to talk about it at the circulation committee meeting,
Okay.
just so I can have everything in front of me.
Okay.
Okay. So, well, that sounds cool all the same, though. So is there anything else for the SAGE staff report?
We had I think the reports training went pretty well. We had that in Hermiston a few weeks ago.
Cool.
Those slides as well as the handouts are up on sagelib.org under the reports section, right here. I put the link in the chat window. So those are posted, and I'm planning also on doing a holds and system kind of local system administrator type online slide kind of lesson just for setting things like going for the holds section, going over the various ways Evergreen manages holds for patrons as well as staff, and then for the kind of local admin how staff members can kind of set up policies and kind of be aware of what's actually being called in Evergreen.
Okay. Well, should we move on to the cataloging committee, Beth?
Sure. Yeah. The cataloging committee did not meet at the beginning of this month, but we will be, of course, meeting again next month. We're continuing to work on resources for the website, and one of the things that we're rolling out is some regional trainings, so getting those scheduled, and putting together a training agenda is one of the things we're working on. And also the patron survey, which is a repeat of the survey that we gave last year, and for the grant that we have, we're finishing up on that. I wanted to keep it up a full month, so after this week I can take it down and we'll start analyzing the survey results. So I'll be able to report on that at the next meeting, probably in between via email.
Okay. And you want us to take the paper ones off the desk if we have them at the various libraries too, and get those?
Well, yes, that would be great. You can keep those paper copies out through this week.
Okay.
I figured I started the survey on February 16th, and just want to make sure that we have our full month plus a little bit.
Okay.
Get as many survey responses as we can for the rest of this week.
Okay. Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Circulation committee, back to Brent.
Yeah, so the circulation committee, I realize it's a little too late, but is meeting tomorrow. So if anyone wants their fill of SAGE meetings, you can come tomorrow as well. And so at the circulation committee meeting, we're going to be kind of going over updates with the circ-related projects we have, go back over the survey on volume holds that we've done, and we got over 22 responses on that. We're going to look into the Overdrive integration with Mark Records, which is also going to be a session at the conference this year. The age protection, changing the alert messages to be a little more clear, and also removing the 18-month age hold protection rule, which in the survey, 100% of people said they were in favor of. So that's kind of an easy
Yay.
win there. So we're going to be migrating probably today or maybe tomorrow. I'll have that finished for all the 18-month items that are attached to that policy will be moved on to the 6-month protection rule or just put into regular circulation if it's already expired. And then lastly, just kind of we'll be going over the like a refresher of the check-in modifiers that are available to staff members when you're at the check-in screen, because there is sometimes maybe situations where you can inadvertently choose a couple of those and that can alter how either holds are captured or items processed. So you, for example, could set it so that all holds are set as transits, so when you scan them in, it still looks like a transit until you scan it in again. So just kind of quickly go over those features just so people are aware of them.
Okay. Sorry. Courier committee then.
Okay, this is Beth. The Courier committee did meet. We are going over the procedures and made it, I'd say, partway through that document, but it's still not finalized. But we're hoping, obviously, to get that done by our next meeting so that we can send out the revised procedures, just kind of updating and making sure that we're all kind of consistent with following ILL packaging and labeling requirements, that kind of thing. I am still in the process of ordering the additional boxes, the audio CD boxes and the music CD boxes. So hopefully I'll be able to announce those coming and being distributed out soon.
Okay.
So that's kind of where the Courier committee is right now.
Okay. All right. Says we have something from the governance committee from Marie, potentially.
Sorry, this is Marie. I was on a phone call.
No problem.
I confess I've been a little bit more Leo-oriented since I got back from travel, but the meeting today reminds me I will get a meeting set up for governance so we can finalize the requirements to join SAGE.
Okay. Okay. Looks like that's it for reports. If nobody has any questions about any of that, I guess we can move on to old business and start with the budget.
Sorry, Ryan?
Yes.
I just wanted to also kind of make people aware for the system stuff. I try to send out an update every week that's also attached to a blog post. So if you go to sagelib.org, under that recent content, there should be a list of systems updates. I think the last big one I had was from about 10 days ago, and then there's some smaller ones past that.
Okay.
But that's another good place if you're curious.
And that's on the SageLib blog.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. And let me pull this up here.
Ryan, is it possible for Mary Finney to just make a little statement?
I don't see why not.
Okay, it has to do with the Courier, and I just want to say that the Courier boxes have really made my ILL area look great, so thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, that's good feedback. Thanks, Mary.
Okay, so Perry just sent me the link to the budget here. And if he wants to grab his mic and take over.
Okay. Thank you. Let's look at, actually, could you share my screen? I think it might be easier if I was to be able to control scrolling.
Ryan, do you know how to do that?
I can now.
You have to make him a presenter.
Yeah, I just did it.
You did? Okay. Show. Okay, I think you
And
can see my
I'll
screen
start
now.
saying, before, this is going to get voted on via email, so you will have time to look at it a little bit more carefully.
Right. So let's start by looking at the layout of the document. We have over on the left-hand side, the green columns are the historical data of the budget, Sage budget, and column for the actual figures which came from our auditor. And then in the blue, we have the budget we're currently working with, column for the adopted budget, expenditures for the actual to date as of yesterday, and then a projected column for the rest of the year, which may or may not be accurate. And then there's the headings, descriptors in the middle. To the right of that, with the pink header column box, is the proposed budget for next year. So if we look at the top line 1 there, we see back in 14-15 we had $95,000 in cash. We planned to have $114,000 for this year, but our actual cash is just $103,000. So that may go up by about $5,000 we're estimating. So next year we're proposing 110, just to make sure that that's covered with the budget. The membership dues we've increased as Sage needs to become more independent and is working entirely off of its own funds. It needs to be able to have funds to operate, to pay the staff, and also to operate from the time that the fiscal year starts until it collects membership dues. To cover those expenses for this coming year, we're proposing a 2% increase to bring those dues up to a collection of about $205,000. The interest, we haven't seen any interest come in on what the banking balance is yet, so that's a place taker proposed for $10. Restricted grants, we have had the LSTA cataloging grant in that for the past couple of years. Next year it'll just be down to the LSTA courier of about $50,000. We do collect some reimbursements for OCLC Cat Express, and those dues come to about $3,000 for income. So that brings our total resources to collect for the coming year of $368,010. Sage administrator salary, in the past, in 14-15, Beth did reduce her hours by 6 hours, or no, by 8 hours for 6 months. So for half a year she was working part-time. She's back up to full-time this year, and we plan on that for the coming year with a 3% possible cost of living. So that's the figure that you see there, $56,816. The administrative services, that is the baker's accountant and staff accountant that devotes 5 hours per week to Sage work, and that comes to $5,600. Benefits are broken out. The retirement is projected as high. We're currently just about at what we've budgeted for the retirement, but I think that may be including retirement for David with the cataloging grant. So I'm not sure if that is posted correctly. We might need to move things around or adjust that budget line up if that is correct. For the next year, it is quite a bit higher. You've probably all heard about the PERS, the state of PERS, and some unknowns about how they're going to cover costs. So we are planning for a 10% increase. We just don't know what that's going to be, but that seems like a reasonable guess. It could be 15, who knows.
Perry, I have a question about that. It sounds like they say that the average increase for PERS in the next biennium is 20%. So is this, the 10%, is it only covering half of the year?
So that's, the average is 20%, that's what you've read?
That's, yeah.
So
our City of Hood River is getting more like 22 to 25.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So that might be low.
Yeah. Basically, the average is supposed to be a 20% increase this biennium, another 20% increase next biennium, and then another 20% increase in the following biennium. So it's
Wow.
It's pretty bad.
So we've put 10% in there. We might need to put another $800 or $900 on top of that, which we can do now.
Your guys' increase might be different because that's just the average for all of the municipalities. Yours may be lower or higher or whatever, depending on your PERS liabilities.
It is better to budget higher and have the money covered than not have it. So we can put another 900 in there.
When will we know exactly what the increase is? Is there a date in the future?
I thought that they're working it out now because all the municipalities need it for their budgeting for this fiscal year.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
I mean, it's gonna hit a bunch. I mean, it's gonna hit most of the public libraries, probably the community colleges, EOU.
Okay.
I'll ask my partner. She's finance director for the city. I'll see if we've received letters or anything about it. We don't have PERS, so we're fortunate to not be impacted by it. But
seems like we don't find out until like April. It's right around the time we're getting the budget proposal finalized.
Yeah.
On a more positive note, our health insurance is projected to be pretty flat. So I'm not sure what Buzzies is going to do, but we could probably reduce this down and move that money up to the retirement. So let's just say 7,900 there.
Our insurance is probably going to go up a bit, but given the way that I budgeted for you guys, I think that it's not going to have a huge impact. I think I've already included enough in the quote that I gave you that it won't matter.
Okay. So any questions about the SAGE staff personnel? This doesn't include Brent. Brent is down here in system support. Is this the quote that is this accurate, Buzzy, the 56,100?
Correct. I'll double check it, but yeah, that looks about correct. And I should say, just so you guys know, that also includes some kind of random incidentals. So Beth and I have found that a lot of times it's easier to do things like mileage reimbursement or paying for conference expenses through us and then just billing Sage for it than it is to have Sage do it.
Okay, hearing no questions about personnel, we'll move down to materials and services. Telecommunications, that is the payment for GoToMeeting. Technology, this is our development line and Equinox support line. I'm not sure that we have a contract. We've had $2,500 in the past. We've also used that line for emergency needs.
Yeah, and we currently do have some hours left that need to be used up by the end of May, so Brent and I are going to strategize for that, but we haven't really needed to go to them.
That's excellent.
Yes.
Do the hours don't roll over or anything?
They don't. They only last for a year, and we purchased them last May. Actually, it's closer to April, but yeah, they don't roll over, and I did recently contact them to find out how many hours we had left to know kind of what our possibilities were for next year. But yes, they indicated that we needed to use up the hours by the end of May.
So in that line for this year, we have $4,500 budgeted. We've only spent $733, and that's the book jackets for our catalog, the images.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we're talking about, this is also on the agenda, I think, money available for supporting the Evergreen Conference. So there is plenty of money in that line if money was to come out somewhere.
Okay.
So that figure for next year, we just kept the same. Equinox support, development, funds, that is negotiable, but we just kept it the same for now. Accounting and editing, we do the scope of work for the accountant, excuse me, for the auditor. We have had that work done this year. We haven't gotten the bill yet, but they do up to $1,500 of work, and we'll have that done again next year, unless Sage doesn't want it done, and then we could just take that out. It's not required for them to do the level of in-depth auditing that we had them do. The fiscal agency fee, this is calculated at 2% of the budget. The 5 hours of our accountant work comes out of that, and the balance is paid to Baker here. The system support, that's Brent's salary, $56,100. Technical services, I think, I'm confused about this. This could be the Equinox work, or it could be cataloging work. I'm not sure. That has been where we've done, I think, previous authority and various cataloging work.
I think it is, yeah.
Does that seem reasonable to keep that amount there?
It does, yes.
Okay.
I was looking at the other categories to see whether there was another spot for it, but no, I don't think there is.
Yeah, that's where we've had the catalog and grant expenditures as well for the salary.
Mm-hmm.
Legal services, that's just a place taker in case we do need to maybe have a half an hour of legal counsel. Cat Express expenditures and book jackets. We're going to move down there to dues and subscriptions. Postage and freight. We've got $100. We've spent $30 of postage this year, so that might be a little much. By the preceding year, actually 2014-15 was $91. So we'll keep it at 100. Printing of $50. That's again a place taker. Supplies, office supplies. We have spent some money might need to be removed from that line in the current budget.
Those are all courier expenses,
those are
pretty
all
much.
Courier things.
Yeah, except for the bank checks.
Yeah. So that has included things like banking stamps, checks, training certificates, storage totes. I think those are also courier items. So we're still in the process of getting our budget postings clarified, as understanding between Beth and Christine about where things need to go. Travel and training is in a similar situation. You know, what constitutes something that needs to go in training, what goes into travel. You can see that Christine has currently posted more in travel than we have budgeted, and probably a good portion of that needs to go down to training, because some of it is for the Evergreen Conference that I think we traditionally do put in training.
That's true. Yeah, we usually had two different travel categories, and I don't know that we labeled it training. We labeled it conference travel, but certainly we could make that adjustment, get them in the right category.
And maybe we just need to just consolidate those if there's not a big difference.
Yeah, we could do that, certainly.
Courier is down a little bit. Beth, do you know if LSTA is planning on reducing our courier funding?
Not that I'm aware of. There's a different, obviously, procedure this year with the whole grant application process, but I've not heard of any indications that they're going to reduce our amount. I was going to ask for the same as I did last year.
Okay. So we've spent in the past $87,000. We've budgeted $86,000 this year. We may need to bump that up, unless we're becoming more efficient or cutting costs with courier.
Well, we try to continually cut costs. I'm just looking at what we're projected in the current year. I'll take a look at those costs, but I think, I don't know, we usually manage to have leftover courier monies at the end of each year on our side. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that that's a figure that's off.
Okay. That covers materials and services. Then we reserve $21,000 for capital outlay, say if servers are needed to be replaced, and $11,000 for contingency. I need to adjust this unending fund balance so that our requirements matches the resources, 368.10. So There we go. So we'll send that out for a vote by email. Any questions about that? Comments?
Beth, this might be a question for you. Did the cataloging committee ever discuss keeping the cataloger position after the grant period? I realize we'd have to find new revenue for that, but wasn't sure if they were discussing that or not.
Not the cataloging committee itself. The cataloging mentor group has discussed it. We felt as if we needed a period of time after the grant to assess future needs to see whether, okay, are we going to be able to handle things, with the cataloging mentor supporting future training needs and with the resources in place, making the determination whether that's adequate. So we felt like we needed a space of time after the grant is over and see how things go, and then maybe bring that proposal in the future to the budget committee.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to mine. Okay, thanks, Perry. So we have the renewals and the last. Oops. Apparently, I'm still sharing my mouse with you.
Ryan, can I ask a question? This is Dia.
Sure.
In terms of the vote, how long? What is the anticipated at this point in terms of so that as we're communicating with our libraries?
Yeah, I had the same question, Dia, so I'm glad you brought it up.
What was the question?
How long? I mean, we're going to send out and basically do an email vote for the budget. What time frame are we looking at?
I mean, Perry and I will chat this week, and I think we can probably get something out this week. I'm trying to remember what the let me look up the
bylaws.
Let me look at the bylaws to see what the time period we have to do is. One thing that is very important, and we have to be able to do this, is we have to have we have to have everybody voting in order for it to pass.
Ooh.
Is that because it's email, Buzzy?
It's email and it's an Oregon state law. Oh, well, hold on. I take that back. Never mind. Scratch that. That's
Okay.
That probably doesn't apply to us because we're not a nonprofit organization, so never mind.
Okay.
But let me, I had the Sage page up for a minute. Let me look back up.
This isn't a consideration for those folks that are voting on their own internal budgets and needing to know.
Right. Oh, there. All right. The bylaws say the votes for the representatives on the council, we give 3 weeks, but I would say probably 2 weeks would be reasonable.
I agree.
Okay. Is there any other questions about the budget or the vote or anything else? relating to that?
I just want to add that with the unappropriated ending fund balance, that is just about what we spend in the first 3 months of the fiscal year. But we do have the reserve of the capital outlay and contingency, so we should be fine to cover the expenditures with those funds.
Do we want to consider billing out Publix and schools separately, or keep it the way it is as far as when I send out bills?
Yes, we might need to do that. I mean, the sooner we can have some revenues, the less worry it would be that we would not have money to cover expenditures. And it is nice to delay billings for the agencies that don't get their funds until November.
Okay, I guess I would need to know which agencies those are. So we may need to send out some kind of survey of libraries to see when we could potentially send out billings.
And Maggie brought up that next week is spring break, which may affect some people's access to their email for work purposes if their school.
So the only people that it would mainly be up to Anne and sorry, I'm forgetting our other school representative, Delia. Is that right? Oh, okay. Would that adversely affect you, Anne?
I don't see Anne.
She's with Maggie.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And then the other person would be Delia at Hermiston.
Fuzzy, did you see that they asked you to repeat the question?
And would it affect you in terms of voting if we send this out this week and spring breaks next week? Thanks, Delia.
Okay, seems like they're fine.
Okay. Okay. So I think that's addressed everything. With that, should we move on to the renewals and lost and missing items survey?
Sure thing. So this is Brent. We've run a renewals survey for a while now, and we had a total of 25 responses. The subject of the renewal survey was to increase the current level of 2 renewals to 3 or 4, or to leave it currently as it is at the default of 2. And I still want to go through and make sure there's no duplicate entries here, but the over 13 people said that they did not want to raise the renewal limit, while 10 said they wanted to raise the renewals to 4, and 2 said that they wanted to raise it to 3. So it looked like the most popular option right now was to leave the renewals at 2 as they currently stand. But I also just kind of wanted to add something to that maybe to address kind of what occasioned this issue, if possibly a thought about increasing the checkout limit, to maybe 28 days instead of 21, if that might alleviate the issue and kind of give a little more time but still allow the same amount of renewals. But yeah, as it currently stands, the majority is for keeping the renewal limit the same.
Brent, were you able to tell whether the survey responses were fairly representative?
Yeah, I can see the people that have voted. There were a couple from each. Sometimes they did it by themselves, and sometimes they named themselves their library.
Okay.
So there were a few that I need to combine, but it doesn't look like it's going to change the
The outcome. Okay.
the outcome.
I'll speak up on this. This is Buzzy. I was one of the people that asked for this survey to be done. I think that 3 weeks is a pretty typical checkout period, at least among other library systems I've seen. But I don't know how many of the rest of you have this, but we have a lot of people who use our library who are not from within Sage. So we have people from Multnomah County and Washington County and people from across the river in Washington use our library. And if you look at their systems and also just other systems within Oregon, 2 renewals is extremely low. We are like one of the lowest consortia, library consortia in the state, and we have patrons commenting on it. And my staff don't particularly like overriding renewals all the time because then they keep asking me, rightfully so, well, why do we have to keep renewing it? Why can't we just increase them?
Yeah.
Buzzy, this is Dia. We've been dealing with that issue where I live currently, and we've just raised from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So it's kind of across the board a lot of places. However, one thing that, as I listen to the places you're talking about, most of those don't have such a large area to cover in terms of for couriering, and so that does, eat into some of the time frame that it's available for people. So that might be part of the reason why some people vote the way they did.
I mean, I guess my only comment to that would be that Fort Vancouver Regional Library covers 3 different counties in Washington. Obviously, it's not as big as Sage, but it's quite a large area, and they have, 20-something branches. There are other consortia that have pretty large geographic areas that have more renewals. A lot of times, actually, my staff is more willing to give a renewal if an item has come from another library because we don't want to have to send it back, and then just the patron then has to re-request it again because that leaves that item out of commission for a much longer period of time.
And has to wait for the turnaround on it.
What were the reasons for keeping it low? Were there any comments?
Yeah, there were some comments. Let's see. There was, if there are any special circumstances I can override. I think 2 renewals gives the patron plenty of time unless there are special circumstances. One library said they wanted only 2 renewals. It allows their students more time to fess up for until they lost the books. Let's see. And there's Buzzy's comments. And yeah, just seems to, the sentiment was that if they needed another renewal that they could force it. I know Evergreen will also not allow renewals and if there is another hold on the item. So they can't just keep renewing it indefinitely if someone has the hold on that.
So I wonder if there's a disparity between the school needs and the public library needs in this case.
That could be, yeah. And yeah, I think, I'm not sure with Multnomah County, but I think it's renewals unless there's a hold on the item.
Yeah, I wouldn't go with Multnomah County. I think they have unlimited renewals.
Yeah.
A little excessive.
Yeah.
Well, when I looked online, Multnomah County said they checked out once and they had 1 renewal, as well as Salem also. So I don't know where they get the unlimited.
No. Multnomah County people can renew almost indefinitely. That's what our Multnomah patrons tell us that all the time.
And of course, how many of each copy does Multnomah County have of a specific item? I think that comes into play out here too.
Well, honestly, Multnomah County's reason for allowing as many renewals as they do is space management. They don't have enough space to be able to take all their materials back. So, kind of a patron service, but it's mostly actually a mostly actually a facilities management decision.
Well, one way that this could potentially impact us is in the courier. If somebody is renewing more and that item isn't on the shelf, and forcing somebody to place a hold on it, and then that item comes from another area.
Well, and that becomes a circumstance where if your library has it, it's kind of on your head to hold your library's copy unless the copy that's checked out is literally checked out that day and won't be back for 3 weeks. You know,
more and more, we're seeing patrons do holds rather than staff. I mean, I think it's up to 50%.
The whole issue of copy holds, which is a whole other, I think, even a much larger can of worms.
Yeah.
Yeah. A topic for a future meeting, certainly.
That's on tomorrow's CERT committee meeting.
Yeah. Like, well, when I put a hold for people, I tend to hold my library's copy unless it's not going to be back for 3 weeks. If it was checked out today, I might not hold our copy, but if we have it, I hold it for them. I don't borrow from another library for things that we have, if possible, and reasonable to do.
I'd like us to keep patron service in mind, our users' service, and if there are reasons to keep a service restricted, I think it needs to have solid grounding in reason. If it's a fiscal reason, then that's legitimate, but we need to have that well thought out and be able to articulate.
Right.
If it's just because that's the way we've always done it, and a subjective impression of that's plenty of time for the patron to have it, I don't think that's good enough.
Yeah. Well, no, and I don't see any reason not to increase the renewal limit. So I think LeGrand voted to increase the renewals to 4, actually.
Yeah, you did.
So
yeah, it was just 10 to raise it to 4, and then 13 to say to keep it at the default presently.
Yeah.
I feel like those numbers are close enough that we need to at least keep it on the table. I don't know whether we wait a couple months and send out another survey and try to get a bigger group of libraries to respond, plus educate those libraries too as to why.
How big of an issue is it to change that limit in the system? I mean, is it a couple seconds of coding something? Or
yeah, the limit change is not a problem. Yeah, it's literally just increasing a digit from 2 to 3 or 4.
I would be curious if people would be willing to try it as an experiment for 6 months and see if it really substantially affects them.
The thing is, if you do implement something like that, I don't think it's as easy to go back if it doesn't work out.
And I do have a feeling if we tested it, it would be much like when we increased from 6 holds to 9 holds, where it turned out to not be as big a deal as we thought it would be.
Right. And that's what I think
would
happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it doesn't make a difference. If the item goes on hold, then it doesn't get to be renewed. If it doesn't go on hold, then they can renew it until they hit their renewal limit. And for the schools that want to get their items back, they still have to come in and fess up eventually. It just takes a little bit longer. So.
And that applies to the public libraries too. I'm sure we have people that are renewing stuff until.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So.
Until things go lost.
Yeah. Okay. Well, should we revisit the renewals later? Or? and
Yeah, we could send
leave
out
the survey.
another one to maybe see if it's kind of like we just discussed.
Yeah.
Well, Perry did say it'd be hard to kind of go back on something like that.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess another.
can we wait and see if more people get back on the initial survey and see how
Yeah.
it changes, if it changes?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
there's been 25 responses as of 18 hours ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we do have information about who responded the way they did, maybe we can pursue explanations from them and try to get them pinned down and see if there is a disparity between the needs of school libraries or libraries of different types.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a question here. Why was it that we asked for increase to 2 renewals or 4 when we are currently at 2?
It was
renewals?
It was an increase to 3 or 4.
To 3 or 4. Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote it down wrong. Thanks.
Yep. They had the options as remain at 2 or increase to 3 or increase to 4. Yeah. So Brent, you want to talk about the lost and missing items survey then?
Yeah, the lost survey also came in at about the same respondees so far. We have 24. The question kind of clear up as well because I had cleared this up in emails to other libraries. This is just for people that are searching on the catalog.sage edu site. This does not affect the results you would see in searches in the staff client. So this is strictly for patrons. Although we did find out that some libraries do use the catalog at the staff station for searching just because it's a more aesthetically pleasing experience for some, or they just liked it better. But as it stands right now, for the visibility of lost items, 19 people said to hide items that have lost or missing as their status for that view, the patron view, and 5 people have said to not hide lost and missing items or basically keep it as it is. And there were some comments on that to just kind of address that. One from a school was, if the hidden, lost, or missing items return to the library, will it automatically be visible again? The answer is yes, because when those items return, the status will change back to a visible status. And then the other main comments we did get on opposition to hiding the status were that it was helpful for patrons to be aware of what items in the library are being abused, kind of a transparency to the patrons about what is going lost and missing. And as well, just kind of libraries thinking that it would be useful for patrons to know which copies are lost or missing. That was the other comment. Yeah. So it looks like 19-5 in favor of hiding the statuses right now, as it stands. I mean, this is also just another point. This is the default behavior for these statuses. If you get an stock evergreen installation, that's what it would be doing. I don't know if that really matters, but.
And plus, just to emphasize, the staff client will still show all of the lost and missing items, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I would say this is a clear enough indication that I think we could go ahead and make the change. 19-5 is pretty clear indication of preference.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, my only concern with it is that it may give the public the impression that our collection development work isn't as robust as it actually is, and if they see something that the library, I can't believe they don't have this. It's just
Yeah.
suppressed from their view. I think that's my only concern, but I don't think that's big. I mean, it's just an argument for getting multiple copies of those items that are kind of core collection.
That's true.
I can see that. On the other hand, I would also really like it so that the 4 copies of Twilight that have been lost aren't showing in the catalog.
Right.
And probably 3 copies of the other books in the series.
I know libraries have different schedules as far as when an item automatically gets marked lost, how many days overdue it is. That may be something that they want to adjust.
Yeah.
I guess on a related note, Brent, if we delete an item that's been lost for a long time but it hasn't been paid for, the bill stays on the patron's account, correct?
Yeah, it'll stay. It's tied to the circulation, not the item itself. So as long as that item hasn't been checked in, that bill will remain there.
Okay, great.
Cool. Okay. Any other questions or comments about the lost and missing items visibility?
Sorry, Ryan, just to
Go ahead.
pop in real quick. I had mentioned this in the CERT committee meeting, but I'm just going to put a link in the chat window that there's some new spreadsheets to kind of reflect what those, like Perry just mentioned, the lost rules are different for certain libraries. There's a spreadsheet in there now that says which, if you have a lost rule set, it's listed there, and if you don't, your items actually probably are not getting moved to lost.
Oh.
So there's the time frame, the limit, and if there's alerts being sent, as well as some updated policies as well there, if anyone's curious.
Okay. Cool. All right. And we already talked about the patron survey. Is there anything else we need to talk about concerning that?
No,
Beth? Okay.
we can skip it.
Okay. So Evergreen Conference sponsorship. We talked about it last meeting and decided to get to the budget before we did anything else. Conversation?
How do folks feel about sponsoring the conference?
I'm comfortable with it.
We're talking about it at the $1,000 level or higher?
Yeah, 1,000 or lower is kind of what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
I think that that's a reasonable level, and we should probably continue to expect that level of support for every year.
okay. Can we have a motion and vote, I guess, on that, since we're spending money out of the budget?
Yeah. Linda says let's continue sponsoring in the chat.
Okay.
So does anybody want to make a motion and second to sponsor again this year?
This is Marie. I'll make the motion to sponsor the Evergreen Conference at $1,000, was it?
Yes. And Delia seconded that in the chat. So, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
Hearing many, many yeses and anybody a no? I don't see any no's. So, looks like that passes. So we'll do that this year.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I will convey that news to the conference committee.
Excellent. It looks like we have one new business item, the nominating committee. So, who would like to speak about that? Is that Beth or?
was just asked to put it on the agenda. I think is this purview of the governance committee?
No.
Okay.
I think I mentioned at last meeting that it's something that time frame has to
Oh,
come back
yeah.
up.
Yeah, sorry. I was confused there for a minute. So does the nominating committee change from year to year?
I think it has in the past.
Okay.
It's
So we
kind of
just
a...
It often, I think, is just composed of a couple of departing council members.
Okay.
Yeah, usually, I think it has consisted of the SAGE chair plus a couple of people that volunteered.
Oh. Okay. So we need a couple of volunteers and apparently myself to be nominating committee members. This is what we're looking for. Sounds like. So does anybody want to volunteer? I know how well this question has worked out in the past for other things. And I assume the task in question is finding new members for the board, for the council.
Ryan, this is Dia. I'm one of the ones that I think goes off this year. I'd be willing to.
Okay.
Could we get out who's going off?
I have it up right now. Let me look. Anne Zolke, Debbie Lind, Dia, Ryan,
Ooh.
Mary Finney, John Schoper.
Okay.
John would probably be willing if you ask him.
Okay. And I can email him about that.
It looks like the chair and the vice chair need to be updated on the SAGE website.
Okay, I can take care of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So, and Perry, you're listed as expiring, but since you're the fiscal agent, that's not actually going to happen, is it?
Right.
Okay.
I guess we could just put unlimited in there.
Yeah.
Lucky you, Perry.
Okay. So, and
it's specifically you, Perry, so even if you go to another job or retire, it's still going to be.
Wow.
Thank goodness for GoToMeeting then.
yeah. So Ann said in the chat she'd be willing to continue as the school rep. So does anybody on the list of expiring people aside from myself want to be on the nominating committee?
Libraries.
Ryan, Dia volunteered.
Okay. And who else? Debbie Lind. And I'll email John and we'll see if John wants to. And is Mary here? Mary
Ryan, if you would want, I could continue. This is Mary Finney.
Okay. Well, do you want to be on the nominating committee is what you're talking about?
She was willing to stay on as a representative, so that's another person that we can vote for.
Okay.
So I will say, just as a reminder, when we created the bylaws and created the new structure for the council, we really, really, really wanted to emphasize different people getting on the council.
Right.
it was important to us. And Ann, you're awesome. You know I love you, but I think Ann has been a rep for twice.
Yeah.
And it's probably, we really need to get another school involved because it's just a couple of schools that are holding it up.
Okay.
And that said, if you want me on the nominating committee, that would be fine too.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't mean to criticize either of you. It's just when we created this, we really wanted to emphasize, we really wanted libraries to understand that this is everyone's responsibility to serve on the council, not just a few.
Well, let's put the people who are volunteering to continue on the nominating committee, give them more to do in the short term, and if they're willing to continue and nobody wants to volunteer to be on the committee and they're willing to continue to be on the committee, when we get to that point, we can address that. So.
Sounds good.
So I will just email everybody whose term is expiring and say, please be on the nominating committee, and we'll come up with.
Oh, Ryan.
Yes.
Yeah. You currently, if Ann is willing to serve as on the nominating committee, you have 3 plus you and the vice chair.
Okay.
That's 5.
Okay. Well, then we'll go with that for now.
I don't know that you want to have too many more.
That's true.
Right.
So, Dia and Ann and myself and Mary Finney, and we'll see who else we can drag into this.
Well, we need to also start seeing who's going to be the SAGE chair as of July.
Yes. So we'll hit people up for that too.
And I think we're supposed to have a general membership meeting in May. Yeah.
Okay.
So we should start figuring out where that's going to be and when.
Okay. Oh.
You know, guys, I was emphasizing this yesterday at our directors meeting, that with the ease of GoToMeeting, it's really important that we really reach out and get all the directors to attend, or at least listen to what goes on at these meetings. We have the voting council, but I just need to reinforce what Buzzy said. Every time one of us volunteers to do this again and again, that means another member is unaware, for the most part, of what's going on. And we just need to get as many people involved, and it's not a terrible hard thing to do anymore to go to a GoToMeeting meeting.
Yeah. It's speakers and a headset.
Well, you know, it's just it's frustrating. People we send out the surveys, and you get only a few responses. Yet the libraries will complain and complain and complain if the change is made that they didn't get any input. You know, it just gets frustrating. So just keep emphasizing to everybody around you that this is part of their responsibility. We could always go back to the biggest libraries run the show again, which is why we changed it in the first place.
Very good statements, Marie.
Sorry, I'm getting short.
Well, it's something that we all need to keep in mind. We really want this to be a cooperative run consortium, so it's important to involve as many people as possible.
One thing, just real quick, oh, never mind, I was going to say, Linda's still on, but just something to think about for next year. I'm wondering if for the resource sharing partner next year, if maybe Jefferson County might want to do it, since they're, I think, our largest resource sharing partner, aren't they?
Jefferson County is not a resource sharing partner.
Oh, they're not? I think they were.
Well, at one time they wanted to be, and then they got a new director and everything fell apart as far as Jefferson County being a resource sharing partner with us.
Interesting, because I was at Special Districts Conference and one of their board members seems to think that they are.
Well, I would love to entertain the idea again, but no, things fell apart.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It is interesting that they think they still are, huh? Because we never got it off the ground.
Yeah, it wasn't theirs. Just it was one of their board members, who I know has been on their board forever. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, the board had approved it, and then when I tried to make things happen, it just couldn't get
unfortunate.
anywhere.
Maybe we can eventually work in a compensation in the way of a discount, a membership discount for those libraries that have someone serving on the council at a certain rate.
Yeah. I'd do it forever to make it cheaper. So, okay. So the nominating committee people will email each other and figure out what's going on. So in the meantime, are there any agenda items for the next meeting that anybody would like to throw in there?
Ryan, I think a couple things came up in the last discussion, chair and vice chair, the general membership meeting.
Yes. And chair and vice chair positions. Okay. Anything else? No?
Cake. Let's put cake on the agenda.
Cake? All right. We can add cake to the agenda. We can share it out digitally. All right. Sounds like there's nothing else. So unless anybody has anything else they want to talk about, I guess we can go ahead and get that motion and second to adjourn the meeting. So,
I'll move that we adjourn. This is Dia.
okay. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second. This
Okay.
is Perry.
Okay. So thanks for showing up, and we'll have a good couple months. Have a good week.
Oh, thanks, everybody.